In this demo, we will talk about a data-centric environment for supporting service in operation called Hub. We will demonstrate a hub engine by looking at an example called order to cash. The goal of this demo is to illustrate how collaborative business processes can be designed and executed through Hub. Let's begin by understanding how Hub works. Hub takes advantage of an artifact-centric business process engine called Barcelona. Within Barcelona, business artifacts can be designed and executed. A business artifact is made of two key components: an information model that describes the business-relevant data that may be used during a process, as well as the lifecycle model that describes how information model is affected and how a process should progress by interacting with various participants. Several types of lifecycle models are supported by Barcelona. In this demo, we only focus on a representative declarative lifecycle called Guard Stage Milestone, or GSM. Based on Barcelona process engine, the Hub is to specify how different participants can interact with each other through a collaborative business process that is executed within Barcelona. In detail, Hub defines what data or status attributes a participant can view, access, or modify during the design time and the runtime. Further, it generates different views for different participants during the execution so that some sensitive information will not be exposed to all participants. To understand how various participants can interact, let's explore an example called order to cash. The order to cash example describes a scenario in which a customer requests a generic product. An order for this product is created and submitted to a manufacturer or seller, which is responsible for collecting needed components from a set of suppliers. Once all components are received by the manufacturer, the product is fabricated and then shipped back to the customer by a carrier. During such process, a customer may request a cancellation of the order. In this example, we mainly focus on the process from a manufacturing aspect instead of a payment aspect. So for now, let's take a look at the Hub engine to illustrate how to model and execute the order to cash example under the collaborative setting. The order to cash process in Hub editor contains a single artifact, also known as the business entity, called customer order. Though there is only one artifact in this demo, in general, the engine can support multiple artifacts. The customer order artifact has an information model that contains all the simple types and complex type attributes that are needed during the execution, as well as a lifecycle model. The lifecycle can be demonstrated through a graphical user interface to visualize the lifecycle for convenient editing. What you've seen in this editor is the GSM lifecycle. A GSM lifecycle has three key components. One is the milestone, which are shown as circles, representing business relative operational objectives. For example, an order is drafted or an order is submitted. The achieving of a milestone will close its corresponding stage, which is the second component, shown as rounded corner boxes. A stage is a cluster of activities, which corresponding to external service invocation that could be either manual or automated. A stage could be atomic that just contains a single task, for example the drafting or the submitting stage, or it could be hierarchically structured, like the processing stage that contains nested stages. The third component is the guard, shown as diamonds, which are rule-based conditions to decide when to open up stages. For example, the guard init has condition self.submitted, which means that if milestone submitted is achieved, the processing stage will open. For milestones, rules are also attached to determine when milestones can be achieved. For example, milestone submitted has condition self.submitting.onTask success, which suggests that the achieving of the milestone depends on when the task inside the stage submitting completes. In other words, the completion of this task will first make milestone submitted achieved, then accordingly close submitting stage, and finally close stage processing. A new component implemented in the Hub is the authorization model that defines the access right for each participant. For example, for participant customer, the administrator can choose to expose only 4 attributes and hide stage assembling from a customer. Moreover, the administrator can also condense stage collecting so that a customer can see the status of the stage but not the status of its substages. Now let's run the order to cash process. Here we show 3 different views for 3 different participants. the customer, the manufacturer or seller, and the supplier. And now the customer has just finished the order drafting and is about to submit the order. Notice that before the submission, there is no order record that can be funded by the seller or the supplier. If we refresh, there is just no record. Once the customer submit our order request to seller Leo, the manufacturer or the seller Leo can find a record. If we take a look at the visible attribute in the customer view and the seller's view, we will find out that the purchase order attribute is not visible from the customer, as the administrator has decided to hide it from the customer. Meanwhile, the customer can either to choose to redraft the order or to cancel the order, while the seller can choose to research on what purchase to buy from the suppliers. The available actions here are configured by the authorization models. If the seller decides to purchase a part from the supplier rig, the supplier now can see a record and can deliver the part back to the seller when available. Notice that the views of the status of the collaborative process are different for all three participants based on the authorization configuration. Once the supplier delivers the parts back to the seller can see that the collecting stage is closed. So is the customer. As a summary, AxiHub is an extension of Barcelona Engine to support service and operation. It employs authorization models to differ views of both data and process for each participant.